Let's go.
Record on this computer. Recording. Here we go.
And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the crazy show, the UnFuckIt discussion. This is your dictator speaking, in case you hadn't figured that out. I want to welcome everyone here. The week has gotten crazy insane, because it always does. It's just exponential now, so I don't know why I bother fucking saying it. Just take it as it's just fucking crazy. Danny Jong-un, thanks. I'm just going to do something terrible. I'm not going to do that, Ben. Stop. You're terrible. Yeah. I keep saying it. And I don't know, maybe this comes back to that whole thing of like we are creating and we're manifesting, and we keep making, it's like we make statements and then the statements seem to just go and take on a life of their own. So we keep talking about this whole thing about transparency. We keep talking about programming and how everyone's programming is being seen right now. And it seems like the Unfuckers group on Facebook, holy shit, this week, people losing their shit, people just programming and belief structures. Sorry, let's not even use the word programming. Belief structures are just being exposed left, right, and center. And it's not, like I said, it's not just in our little family group that we've got here. It's like everywhere. Like I'm watching people losing their shit on other groups, people who are usually really calm and not the type to stir a shit pot. And you can feel it. Like it's just like, no, this is how I believe, and you all have to listen to what I believe, and you have to believe what I believe. God forbid. So crazy. Interesting post went by on in the Unfuckers group, and I want to ask if someone can jump in there and grab the post. It was about people dying, suicides, and all these famous people who apparently hung themselves using a doorknob, and the list is extensive. Doorknobs and scarves, doorknobs and belts, doorknobs but hanging himself off a doorknob. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, if one person, maybe even two people, but like I said, if someone can pull up that list was like, what? Because you forget over time the little bit of details, right? So all these people hung themselves on doorknobs. So what the fuck does doorknobs mean? Throw it open to the floor, because logistically and physics tells us hanging yourself on a doorknob is pretty fucking stupid.
I'll jump in right away and give you, I put it in that one, Danny. Randy Morgan's made a comment today on it, and I put it in that thread, but it's probably way the hell down by now.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't been on the group all day today. So
he made the point that in the Masonic traditions, the doorknob is considered the doorway to the, I guess, the netherworld or something like that. And also the tie or a scarf is also has great symbolic meaning to that secret society. And you noticed those people that were mentioned, all one way or another, were hung by the doorknob, and there's been a few more that weren't mentioned in that piece. I'm thinking of David Carradine in particular. Remember Kung Fu guy from years ago. But yeah, that's the point I wanted to bring up. I personally, and I'm in agreement with that. I think those people were off in a symbolic way.
And that's what I would say, because that's my point, Maury, is the fact of nobody hangs themselves by a doorknob. I don't care what your religion, what your secret society is, etc. you don't off yourself or commit suicide by hanging yourself from a doorknob. That's asinine. These have to be, in my opinion, it just screams to me that obviously they were taken out. Someone has done this to them. And they've got to be, yes, Gypsy, they've got to be symbolic killings. They have to be. Like, it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense.
Well, Spade was tied to the Clinton Foundation, so her death was,
And Bourdain's girlfriend outed that she was raped by Weinstein just back in, what was that, December or something?
And his court case has just come up and he's just pleaded not guilty.
Oh, what court case? See, I don't follow this stuff at all. It's just whatever comes through on my feed. What was his court case for?
All these charges.
What charges?
Against Weinstein.
His court case against Weinstein?
The court case is against Weinstein for sexual misconduct.
Got it. So I thought we were talking about Bourdain's
sort of sitting has just been, and he pleaded not guilty. Bourdain's missus was one of the victims, and I don't know if you've seen some of his tweets. It's like after she came out, he came out and went, ha, can we talk about this openly now? #Weinstein. And then he's also put out another tweet that he had a whole lot of information, which was also what was said about Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington from Linkin Park and Soundgarden. And they had apparently all accumulated quite large lists of what was going on. So, and if the Clintons instantly attached to that whole pedo ring. So
okay,
you've got...
So here's the list. So here's the list. I want to thank you guys for pulling this up. Robin Williams supposedly hung himself with a tie from his doorknob. The Queen of the Netherlands' sister just hung herself from a doorknob. Alexander McQueen hung himself with a scarf from his closet doorknob. Now, I'd totally forgotten that Alexander McQueen had hung himself from a doorknob completely. Aaron Schwartz hung himself on a doorknob after he hacked into MIT computers and found a huge stash of child pornography. Michael Hutchins from the band In Excess hung himself. Did Michael Hutchins hang himself from a doorknob too? See, I didn't even know that. I remember that he hung himself, but I don't know.
I thought he was shot or killed. That's what or drug overdose. That's what I thought.
No. He was up to funny.
Oh, we got someone feeding back really, really bad. Hold on, who else? So it's like Chester Bennington hang himself with a belt from his doorknob. Chris Cornell hung himself with an elastic workout band tied to a carabiner from a doorknob in his hotel bathroom. Bennington and Cornell were fighting to save kids from high-profile pedophile sex rings. Kate Spade and Loren Scott both hung themselves with red scarves from their doorknobs. Like, can we get more obvious about this? Like, like I said, like, it's not logical. It's not like they hung themselves from the chandelier. It's not like they hung themselves from, I don't know, out their window, from even the top of the door. No, a doorknob. Most people could comfortably sit on the floor with something tied around their neck to the doorknob and quite comfortably sit there. It's just bizarre.
I don't know if you can hear me okay.
Yep.
I don't know how related it is, but about 10 years ago, in France, there was a wave of a very stupid game called The Scarf, involving kids and teenagers in schools. It was going around. It was so bad that they, it made the news, and parents were really, really afraid. Basically, it was like a game that you would wrap a scarf around your neck and tie it to the doorknob and suffocate yourself because it gives you feelings of this and that. Thing is, some of those kids actually died. Most of them did not, of course. Some of the kids died. Some kids were found even in the bathrooms of school because they would do it from like the what the
Stall or
hand
something.
stupid things in the school bathroom. And it was a huge, huge thing in France 10 years ago. Doorknobs, scarves. And when I saw that list in the EU, I was like, what the fuck? You know, why the fuck did that happen? Because it was just, in France, it was considered as a game, a challenge. Like the blue whale shit that hit a couple of years ago. If anybody, you know. It was like a challenge thing, and kids would do it, and a whole ton of kids did that.
Oh, I just had a big personal what the fuck moment. I had a friend of mine in Thailand. Young guy, he was British born, but he lived in Thailand. And he was a gem dealer. And he didn't deal in little gems. It wasn't like, you know, guy with little 1 carat diamonds. He dealt with remarkable, like as in sell them to the Sultan of Brunei, sell them to, you know, jewels for like Saudi sheikhs to give to their wives type thing. These were, I'd seen a couple of them, and they're like, you know, rubies that are like this fucking big. And I found out from a friend of mine about 10 years ago that he died and he'd committed suicide. And what was said to me at the time was that he had choked himself, and that they thought said they thought it was a sexual thing, sexual thing. Except I just remember that someone said to me he used a scarf. So now I'm wondering, was he tied to a doorknob? That wasn't a detail that was ever given out, so I don't know. But this guy dealt, like I said, with very, very, very high up royal families. He dealt with Saudi sheikhs, Sultan of Brunei, many, many times. He used to go stay at the palace. I wonder.
They also said David Carradine's death was a sexual bondage thing, where they found him in a closet.
Well, we know they're making this stuff up. I mean, it just hits me. That's what they report. That's what the media reports. We know they're lying. But something else happened.
Yep.
Probably murdered.
Yep. Very, very, very bizarre. Very, very bizarre. So anyways, yeah. And Robin Williams. Yeah, what about Robin Williams? I don't know. Robin Williams has always kind of struck me as an unfucker. And maybe that's just wishful thinking, because I used to love some of the shit that he used to say and do, etc. Yeah, but a lot of these guys who were kind of unfuckers were heavily into drugs, and I think maybe it was a sign of the times of when you're so aware of the shit going on around you that you use large quantities of drugs to numb what you've seen, numb what you've done. I don't know. Oh, I don't know.
Danny, it's part of the culture of progression up the ladder. If you don't partake, then you don't get up the ladder. It's the way it works out in the system.
I can imagine. Okay, so Ihor just I figured it was you, Ihor, because your name's all up in Russian. It's your mom's account. Stillness and Storm. So Justin posted, Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade can be added to the list of doorknob suicides, an obvious tragedy. But is such a method of suicide even possible? How does one kill themselves via doorknob hanging? Which was my point. Like, seriously. Seems like an obvious question, yet amid the emotional upset related to these events, most never bothered asking. A theory gaining traction is that these are not suicides at all, they are murders of silence. Rumor has it that almost all celebrity deaths by doorknob over the past few years involve people who discovered an insidious cabal agenda, usually related to pedophilia and child abuse, were Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade killed to keep them silent. Robert David Steele, former CIA man, posted the following article on his website, I can't even say the name of it, suggesting that indeed these deaths are an attempt to keep the deep state cover up in pedogate crimes. At this stage, there's no hard evidence to confirm this theory. However, there's a strong correlation. Well, yeah, like I said, it just makes sense. Hold on. Why are you crying? Why are you crying?
He needs to go out.
I think he does. You guys chat amongst yourself for a second. I'm gonna go round up a daughter to go take him for a walk, because that's exactly what I'm getting from it.
Yeah, it was like what Maury was just saying to it, man. All that stuff makes sense. We know they have to like what do you call it? Go along with what they want, and whether that involves that. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me that you go through, you find out what's really going on, or you realize, it's like, oh shit, I really sold my soul out, or whatever, and next thing you know, now they find out how it's like deep down inside how miserable they are. They're being controlled, even though they're successful. They have all this fame, because that's how it works on that side. And it makes sense. It's like I can see where a lot of them do resort to just like taking anything, just whatever you want to call it, even meth, anything that they can just numb themselves with, because like that's what happened to a lot of them, even including like the so-called like Gary Coleman or which is a Corey Haim, any of these people who are just, that's what really sucks, is the ones who just they succumb to it really young. Some of them just some people just it's one thing I kind of, I guess, despise to a point are these so-called parents who want their children to make all the money so they don't have to work. I hate that shit.
It's a status symbol thing, right? Like every parent, if you're fucking sound asleep, and a parent, you're proud of your child for whatever their accomplishments are. You want them to do well, and you think, oh, I want them to be the next Macaulay Culkin. I want them to be the next, name a child star. And unfortunately, I mean, 99.9% of these parents probably have not a fucking clue about what goes on in Hollywood. So, they want to go, we were just watching America's Got Talent tonight while we were having dinner, and a little girl, 5 years old, gets up and sings I Did It My Way. And she was so cute and so adorable. And I mean, she won the hearts of everyone in the audience because she was so cute and adorable. But I just, that sick feeling in your stomach that you get of like, oh, this little child, like, why?
Well, one thing that gets me, right, is all these people kind of know each other. In any other circumstance, if you had a group of friends or acquaintances that all started dying the same way,
you'd think you'd
notice that, normally it's like, have we got a serial killer here? And it's like, oh, nah, they just obviously
they just
had enough.
A thing for cupboard
like
doors.
We're not talking about like, fucking Robin Williams and Anthony Bourdain. We're talking about Chester Bennington having just hung out with fucking what's his face from Soundgarden and within like a month, and then you've got Bourdain's missus and Bourdain and bits and pieces where you're like, hang on a sec.
Wait. But again, okay, we keep talking about the fact we're looking for transparency. Could this get any more fucking transparent? Like, I mean, even the most asleep person has to be able to, if they see that post go by that says all these people hung themselves with a scarf or a necktie on a fucking doorknob, I think even the most asleep person is going to go, whoa, wait a second. Like, if it's a drug overdose, it's a drug overdose, or they shot themselves, okay. But when something like this, that fucking bizarre, is this just putting it out there, like really, like making it as visible as it possibly can be?
The deep state is so fucking scared right now. They are so scared that everything is going to be thrown out on the proverbial table, of content, of what they've been doing. I don't think them trying to kill off these people is going to stop what is coming to them.
But I think in a lot of these cases, I would assume, and this is just me hypothesizing out of my ass because fucking I don't know, that in cases like these guys, it's not necessarily what we would call the deep state, as in looking at it as an organized group, so much as it's a whole pile of people who got dirt on a whole pile of individual people, and they get taken out. And if it's done with the Masonic shit,
See, you talk about disclosure, and like your recent interview, which I really liked with Cara. But that was why I think last week when we spoke, or the week before, I brought up the Cliff High interview on the Leak project.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that the information was new. It wasn't any of that. It was, I felt Cliff was actually giving, not so much as all, but he was giving quite an astute chronological timeline of the implementation of certain things and the astronomical and astrological influences that were taking place. So he touched on CERN, and he touched on the fact that there was a CERN in Detroit that couldn't run properly because they couldn't draw in Dallas, sorry, yeah.
Or not Dallas, sorry, Texas.
Yeah.
It's near San Antonio.
So they shut it down because it couldn't draw enough energy from the bedrock or the elementals that they'd built it into, which is why the CERN in Switzerland is the most powerful, because they draw their energy out of the quartz that it's built into. I'm sitting here looking at Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all these things, and I'm seeing Tesla. I'm not saying it is the way that Tesla wanted it, but when you start finding out that they're running the largest machine that mankind has had this time round, and it's drawing and pumping out more electromagnetics than the sun, that then says to me, if they're drawing that energy from somewhere and it's built into it, they're drawing, like our Earth has got a lot of potential energy just sitting there. So it's the same, like the processes are all there. You're seeing this scrambling because you're seeing another outpouring of deaths. Now it's in the Hollywood field, but what's going on in the Hollywood field? Prior to that, it was natural medicine doctors and homeopaths. And what was going on then? The chemtrails were coming out. They were all speaking out about that sort of stuff, and all these new, they were noticing these new diseases or these new ailments that were coming through, and they were talking about it. Morgellons and all that sort of stuff come out from naturopaths and homeopaths before it came out from any one main medicine anywhere, right? So you've got all this stuff going on, and I think that what's happening is you're starting to see the factions within the deep state are starting to be like, oh shit, like the Clintons and having to pull away from the Bushes because, you know, Daddy killed JFK and Bush did 9/11, so we're only pedophiles, sort of thing, you know, like we can keep this up. How are they going to fucking cover that? So you're seeing a lot of stuff across the board. I mean, me and Eloise flicked the TV on for a second last night, and there's a fucking Angry Birds movie coming out. And now in Australia, they're doing this new show where they're getting businesses to go in dance-offs. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
There's nothing original out of Hollywood. There's nothing original. All they keep doing is remaking the same movies.
But it's worse than that. It's worse than that. It's things like your Master Chefs and all these X Factors. All those people, they're not real people. And I don't mean like clones or drones or da-da.
What I mean
is they are all fucking actors. They all have... It's like I'm watching Master Chef. Like I've been working in hospitality for fucking ages. Like over 2 decades, literally. And I've work with some fucking really up there chefs, and the shit that these guys are doing on Master Chef is like, this is stuff that is Michelin star food. You know, you got to do 3 years of apprenticeship, 4 years of apprenticeship to get there, and people can go, oh, but it's like, no motherfucker that actually works a proper job has time to actually master their food skills like that, unless they're doing dinner parties every fucking weekend. They're all actors. It's all stage. It's crazy. The whole kit and caboodle.
Okay, so you just brought up CERN and the whole energy thing. Now, Chris has been keeping track of things like all the storms, the volcanoes, and shit like that. The lightning strikes have been insane. Now, here's the other thing. The lightning strikes last spring. We had all the ground lightning that killed all those people in Germany and in France, where ground lightning came out of the ground. Now, we're talking about, there was something, I can't remember, what did you say, Chris? 500,000 lightning strikes is a lot of energy. And what was the time span on that? It wasn't like it was like over a year or over a month. There was some 12,000 lightning strikes in the city of London 2 weeks ago. In an hour. In an hour, they had 12,000 lightning strikes.
You want to? I'll drop something trippy in here.
Okay.
So one of these guys that we're working with, one of our ultimate alchemists, he dropped a bomb on me the other day, and I knew it, but then I was like, oh, fuck. He goes, just remember that lightning doesn't come from the sky.
Okay, and that's interesting because to me, I'm sorry, but in my entire life, I have never witnessed ground lightning. Never.
No, you don't see it like that, but that's where the charge is coming from.
Then why do they teach you? But why do they teach you that it comes from the clouds in this atmosphere?
Why do they teach you that you have a North Pole and a South Pole? Why do they teach you only about gravity?
Dude.
Why do they? Like this is that whole thing. This is it like serious, and that was one of the things that Cara touched on was when you guys started talking about the ley lines and the energy grids and stuff like that, and that was what this gentleman that we're working with is. He's like, that's the Earth discharging. It looks like it comes down, but it's not that way.
But okay, so then again, I go back to the fucking piece that Dutch since uncovered a few years ago, that in, I think it was 1995, NASA put up some bizarre fucking science experiment that was supposed to have done something completely different, but just so happened that it grounded out the Lois Van Allen belt into the Earth, drained it, and grounded it out into the Earth. And they left it up there. They just left it up there because, apparently that's what NASA does. Space junk everywhere. So we're talking about, we go back to the whole geomagnetic and electrical, the balance that goes back and forth. And we're seeing these massive amounts of lightning strikes. We're seeing, and I just got seriously hit sideways just then when I was saying that. Wow. I'll try to stay in my chair. We're seeing all these lightning strikes. We're seeing bizarre discharges. We're getting experimental stuff coming up all the time now that you have to sit and question and postulate, okay, what are they actually fucking doing? And it's like you said, CERN is putting out more magnetic energy fields than our sun. Wait a second. There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a what are they actually fucking doing with it?
Well, and that's one of the reasons, once again, I really like what Cliff was talking about, but based on the science that Robert Schoch brought into the Joe Rogan show, which was, and as I said, I showed those petroglyphs to people, and it diverted entire conversations. I drew pictures of those petroglyphs, right, and entire conversations changed. Like it was like, okay, we got to sit down and be fucking serious now. Why are you asking about that? So those plasma discharges, those shapes that he, the scientists had recreated under high electrical discharge, that those plasma discharges, much like these sprites that are being seen right now around the place,
like the jellyfish fucking sprites.
Well, yeah, but that's the name. I'm looking at the shape, and then if you go through the petroglyphs and the hieroglyphs and stuff, they start like those jellyfish sprite remind me of the ones in the Dark Crystal. You know, once two become one, once the Skeksis join with the Mystics, they became those light beings.
Oh.
And that's what those fucking sprites look like. Those beings.
You know, Ben, hey, Ben, when you mentioned the Dark Crystal, it just triggered me. I still haven't seen that movie.
What?
Yeah, I've never.
That might even be one of the next movies that we watch. On Sunday night, we're watching Inception. I haven't seen the Dark Crystal in 30 years.
I've never seen
Netflix.
It's on Netflix right now. I know.
And the Jim Henson Foundation are making a fucking second part called like The Revolution or something like that.
I thought it was a prequel they were doing.
Well, whatever it is.
Whatever. Yeah, they're doing the Dark Crystal.
Like
maybe we need to rewatch that movie.
Well, you got to remember, like Boris, the legal dude that I follow. It was him sitting down with his mates watching that movie, and they went, "Oh fuck!" And all of a sudden, they just mapped out international law from watching the movie, and they just went, "Holy shit!" It was the Dark Crystal. It was
You know, back in January when I was in Houston, Dawn and I and 4 of our close friends in Houston, they had a 3-day showing of the Dark Crystal in the movie theater in town.
You guys all went.
And we all went. There was only 8 people in the whole damn theater. The 6 of us and 2 sitting way away. But anyway, yeah, we saw it in the movie theater, the original version too. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll have to watch that one very soon. Very, very soon. Definitely.
Well, you mentioned, Maury, you mentioned the original version. Now, there's only one version of the Dark Crystal I'm familiar with, and I guess it. I'm thinking of the early '80s, but for some reason, or the late '70s. I'm just
1989
even.
3.
Oh, no, yeah.
I don't know. 83.
No.
Yeah, I had to be in the early '80s. I haven't looked it up in a while, but I just remember that. I start remembering.
I went with a bunch of my high school friends. We skipped school in grade 9. It was like the last week of school, and we skipped school, and we took off and went to the movies.
And the Labyrinth came out in, I think it was '89.
A little sooner than that. Labyrinth came out a little bit sooner than that. I'm just going by my memory. One with David Bowie, the one with David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly. Yeah.
Oh, Brian Froud, I love him. His stuff is so awesome. Oh, he's one of my favorite artists. I love his stuff.
But see, here you're actually seeing like all these movies, and then you're seeing these other things in real life. It's kind of like that whole freedom, and Michael Tsarian talking about the symbology and the sigils and the that sort of stuff, and then you, like you say, you start coming back through with tattoos and that kind of thing, and symbols like people having fucking Mickey Mouse and the Playboy Bunny and shit like that, you know, branded on themselves. It starts like I kind of never thought about the tattoo thing until she mentioned the being able to actually create a charge through spin, and I was like, holy fuck, of course, yeah, well, that's what dancing is, of course, and that's what the sound's about, and the stomping and the clapping and the clapsticks and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, for me, I'm just like, especially doing work with the crews that I'm doing work with, it's all, like we said it, I think it was a few months ago, and it's all about ceremony.
Yeah.
It's all about ceremony. I mean, one thing that Cara, and it will come up, is how much these peoples used to sing.
Mm-hmm.
Like everywhere. Yeah, and she dropped the Guardians in there at one point, talking about the Fae, and we need to talk. I need to talk. We need to talk.
We're gonna organize a deep immersion. Emily's on vacation, I think, for about 5 days. I'm not sure what the schedule is. We've been playing Facebook tag, Emily and Ben and Randy and Cara and I. So we are definitely going to put together a deep immersion on this one. And because there's some shit in here, and the ley lines, the tattooing, There's something there. There's something really, that one there is really, and to the point of wanting to look at the difference in modern tattoo ink versus.
She hit it on the nail. She hit it on the nail, right? Because you think about, you got to think about things in the way of energy flow and the way energy works. And you have, for lack of better terminology, you have positive and negative, which can be thought of as hot and cold, which can be thought of as north and south. That they're all representations of the same thing. So then you have a directional of spin, which then creates a charge. And then depending on how the charges then connect, depend on how matter is created, because it's the photons that are charged with by the spin, yada, yada, yada. So then when you start having things directional on your, like if you look at Chinese medicine and the mapping of the meridians, you by acupuncture can increase and decrease energy flow. So therefore by having things tattooed in certain, like if you've got like, if you have spirals, and one is a left and one is a right, you're balanced. But see, the other side of it is when, if you've got stuff that's going on your body vertically and then you're spinning horizontally sort of thing, so they're spinning that way instead of the way that they're spinning, what you're doing is you're creating displacement fields in what she was talking about.
Okay, so
and that's you
sorry,
creating chaos. Well, that's you creating. I can't remember the word because she split it up to basically material and what I call ethereal. I like her word way more. That energetic space, and that's what you're doing by interacting in dance, sound, and frequency. Is you're creating your chaos. You're creating your androgynous zone to then be able to manifest from. And when we used to do that en masse in these energy points.
In ceremony. Okay. So when I, back in 2015, when we did the Untangled Gathering the Origins conference, I had a guest on who's in the Unfuckers group still, Dohokatokte, who is from the Mohawk Nation in Canada. And he said, like, he had been taught the traditional way of doing certain things. And him and his brother had gone to a powwow, which you would never go to because it's one of those things. It's a lot of people going to see the kind of commercialization of powwows is considered kind of poor form, let's just say. They went to this powwow, him and his brother. And when they got there, they were doing it. The whole group was doing this big dance, and they're doing the dance around the fire. And him and his brother were like, "What the fuck are they doing? They're dancing in the wrong direction. They're dancing in the wrong fucking direction. Why the fuck are they dancing in the wrong direction?" And I can't remember if it was they were supposed to dance counterclockwise, or if they were supposed to dance clockwise and they were dancing counterclockwise. But they were, whatever is the way it was supposed to be done, they were doing it opposite. So we went up to one of the group leaders at the end of the dance and said, "What the fuck?" And they were like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You're dancing in the wrong fucking direction." I was like, "But that's how we were told to dance." Who told them? Oh, it was like one of these guys from the Canadian Cultural Society who had set up all these, these big shows for, the tourists to come see. And he was mortified that they were dancing in the wrong direction. He says, "They're pulling the energy in the wrong way. They're pulling it out in the wrong way. This is completely fucking wrong." So you talk about spin, right? And we talk about things like, and the directional pull, etc. We talked about with Cara, we talked about the fact of, in all these ley lines that have got either churches smack dab in the middle of the top of them, because how do you control the frequency? And they ring, like I said during the interview, all the church bells here are discordant. They're all
remembering churches are banks.
Sorry, hun, say again.
Churches are banks or full of banks.
Yeah.
Now you've got energy banks or you've got financial banks, right?
We never did finish that conversation. That was a conversation we started digging into, and then we didn't. That was last year. I was around this time last year, and we didn't get a chance to really dig into it anymore.
Exactly, Stephanie. They hold currency.
They hold currency. Huh.
Danny, can I add something about counterspin?
Absolutely, Igor.
Just a brief note. When at one stage, when the Russian Orthodox Christian Church was reformed, they reformed the wedding ceremony, and they did the counterspin of entering the altar of the newlywed entering the altar. It used to be from left to right, as far as I know, and then they counterspinned it. So at the moment it's counterspinned, and they say here that it's programmed for destruction.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
now it's black magic, basically.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. That's exactly what I was going to get into. We're talking pure. This is when you start getting into black magic, dark magic. The counterspin is a major part of getting into that stuff.
Well, just also on this note, while we're talking about all this stuff, now if you throw in, like you were talking to Cara about people stopping off because they resonated, let's say, right, with the space. So you're looking at a volcano spewing out magma that is setting a new charge. Yeah, like altering. Yeah. So when and this is playing into exactly what Ihor is talking about. So remember, we've already gone into which way plugs drain.
Yeah. Which way does the water go down your toilet?
I'm only just gonna just put this out there, right? Because one of the first lessons that we got taught about spin when charging water and stuff like that was our mentor sort of laughed at us and he goes, "Gentlemen, it's been in front of your face your whole lives." And we're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" He's like, "Next time you take a piss, look what happens." And males, when we urinate, it's quite funny, and I can't remember, and this is what I'm getting at with the spin, is it goes a certain way, and it has 3 turns. It goes like right, left, right, and then it turns into a stream of urine. Yeah, this is trippy. Now, those 3 spins are in perfect ratio to you. They are imparting heaven and earth spin, positive and negative charge.
Okay.
So it'd be interesting if Northern Hemisphere men did a different thing to what Southern Hemisphere. But the reason I'm saying is let's say the spin in the wedding dance was counterclockwise, and the plug hole spins clockwise in the Northern Hemisphere. In my head, what that would be bringing about is a north and south of a magnet, a union. To then reverse it would make it something that is not in union. It's like south and south. They repel.
Would they repel?
So it would be very interesting if these ceremonial dances were being done into a counter the natural spin, and then looking at the energetic side, like we've talked about, the amount of people with not wearing bare feet and the amount of or lack of discharge that's happening, right? So I wonder if, once again, it's doing the same kind of thing as what CERN's doing by these ceremonies being done in reverse, where you're creating this repellent as opposed to a more natural unifying.
There's
okay,
so
Johnny
much.
B, and that's cool. I totally get it. So what Johnny said in the chat is always heard the right path puts stuff in, the left removes. But would that depend on whether you're in the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, or on the equator?
That is a really good question.
It's like you guys are now coming into summer, or spring/summer solstice. I'm coming out of autumn, going into winter solstice. So, do we do the Elul and all the northern hemisphere stuff in the same order? When we hit winter here, we do winter what they would do winter there, or do we have to dance the opposite way to keep the balance?
Okay, so then you need to be talking to your origine buddies.
Well, I
see
kind
what
of
they say, because I'm actually really. This is actually very interesting when we're talking about. Space.
I know the answers, because that's what we've just talked about. You've got the ability, right, to attract, which is like positive negative, which is helping finalize a circuit, which is DC.
Yep.
When you do the other, the way that energy has to then flow is it arcs. It has to arc. It's like if you get two negatives or two positives, they have to arc, because that's the discharge. So it's disharmony unless you have something in there to help direct it in a way, whether that's a tattoo or a ceremonial dance, to direct that flow.
Okay, so you're talking about arc. And we're going back to the discussion of fucking ground lightning. Massive quantities of ground lightning. So if you have an uneven balance that is causing it to arc because it's not in the natural balance,
you have an environment that's
unbalanced
flipping charge. Sorry?
Why is it this unbalanced now?
Water.
Okay, so and I get it. Why now? I'm trying to backtrack this into the egg question. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, are we seeing the causality, or are we seeing the symptom of what it is?
I would say the symptom from what I'm observing, because what I know is that the greater charge will become the more dominant.
Yes. Okay.
So you're always going. See where I'm going with this is you're always going to have a flip. You're always going to have that positive, negative thing.
Yes.
But what I'm getting at is that there are ceremonies, and this is what Clara is getting at with the Fae, is their energetic knowledge.
Okay.
Because and this is what I mean, is like hanging out with this mentor, I don't see things the same.
Strangely enough.
Because it's forever balancing.
Hold on.
It's not good and evil. It's positive, negative. And what I'm seeing is so what I've been told, right, is essentially water is the greatest magnetic charge on the planet, which is why diviners can pick it up hundreds of meters above.
Yep.
But with a magnet, even some of the strongest magnets you can get, their magnetic field is only about 4.5 inches. But water will go for hundreds of meters. So right now, if you put it into the context of what Cliff was talking about, like with the chemtrails, it's like perhaps there's a natural thing that occurs that they figured out. Like the volcanoes start going off, it starts putting out this plumage which helps protect the Earth from these UV rays that shouldn't be coming down. And they preempted that because they knew the ionosphere was fucking falling out and they needed communication still. Then they worked out that they had to roll out 5G, because if this volcano thing actually occurs, then it's going to be quite dark, and they need a different way to transmit messages, information, and whatnot. Not just fry us, but it's the more optimal way that they know before one of us figure out the fucking Tesla thing and how to ride the Earth frequencies, right?
Yeah.
So what if each step of this stuff is literally, like I say, is boom, 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 it's going through. So all they're doing is they're extracting as they kind of go along, and the unfortunate thing is the information that's coming out is beating it. We're just not correlating it the right way.
Okay, so I want to throw this in here, and it goes back to the conversation we had last week when we talked about, there was a report from the volcano talking about the guy standing there and the compass was like, and there was the bullshit mainstream attempt to explain what was happening of like, oh, well, you know, pole flip a million years ago, blah, blah, blah.
The iron had been charged, it held that charge, and then it was set. So when it came up to the surface, it was presenting yet.
So now we're talking about another energy anomaly, and I'm using energy as in not electric, but magnetic in this case.
Well,
so if we're talking about balance and rebalance,
yeah,
right? Are we looking at a question, again, we're going back to the whole chicken and the egg fucking thing, and are we talking causality, or are we talking to symptom? We see an earthquake like that, and we're seeing this, and this is going to be ongoing. This is ongoing in Hawaii, and it sounds like it's going to be ongoing for quite a while.
Yeah.
So when we see this kind of energy being fluxed around, all of a sudden we've got a massive shift in a magnetic field. Is this a counterpoint balance? I.e., is this happening in direct response to energetic shit that it is now counterbalancing, and therefore that is being the heart, as we keep talking about in Pele and the heart, that is the counterpoints? So it's the reaction? Or, like I said, that's what it feels like to me. It feels to me like it's a reaction to what is going on.
So if you look at there was a volcano in Indonesia, a volcano in Guatemala, and the volcano in Hawaii, and they're all within the band of the Tropic of Capricorn.
Okay, hold on. It's way worse than that. Chris, was it you who pulled up the list? Was it 54 active volcanoes right now?
Mm-hmm.
As in actually spewing. Not just rumbling, actually are fucking spewing.
Well, the ones that I named there are the ones that have had major blasts, like tens of, up. But what I'm seeing, like I say, those ones, and I'd be interested to see if the other ones are in that band of Capricorn. Because I think the band of Capricorn sits on either side of the tropic. Of the equator.
Pull it up right now.
So what you actually have is the expansion field being the equator, and that's your energy grid where it expands from. But it's all of the above. You're in a solar minimum. The Earth is receiving more input.
Okay, so the Tropic of Capricorn is down below. So the Tropic of Capricorn, so it can't, that, like Hawaii's not anywhere near the Tropic of Capricorn.
Well, what map was I fucking looking at?
I don't know, hold on. I'm trying to make sure that I've got a proper...
world map.
Hold on. Where's my fucking Zoom? There we go. Share screen. There we go. Okay, so, I gotta close the chat down because it's right in the middle of my screen.
Oh, you got it there.
Okay, so here we go. Tropic of Capricorn is down here. So we're talking
Tropic of Cancer.
Capricorn.
Sorry, Tropic of Cancer.
Okay, well, dude, you're just confusing me, the shit out of me. Okay, well, that's interesting because, Tropic of Cancer goes right over Hawaii, as we can see over here. Goes right through Central America, over here, and then hits right over here near where we're talking about Japan and near into that area over there as well. Okay, so let's look here in the Middle East. I want a big map. I need a bigger map. Do I have a bigger map here? Is that the Tropic of Cancer there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's just south of where I am.
See, and then you've got volcanoes going off up there, and then it would be interesting. Well, actually, look, and then you've got the Tropic of Capricorn, and you've got New Zealand just below it, and the fucking Horn of Africa just below it, which are breaking. They're not blowing, they're cracking. New Zealand's got earthquakes, and the Horn of Africa is got that massive fucking crack through it. So you've got an energetic expansion at the topper part of the equator at the Tropic of Cancer, and we have can't call it platonic anymore. You have
not tectonic, not what is that?
You have crustal movement. See, so you've got, and then what you've probably got there, here you go, D, here's another one. So there, in that aspect, you've got volcanoes, which are heat, which is positive.
Versus
and then you
cold.
have movement, which is probably cooler. Well, it's definitely cooler than magma. So you actually have a negative showing and a positive showing. And you've got it correlating in the areas to which it's, you get what I mean? So but what I got told is north is positive. North is negative and south is positive.
I've kind of hypothesized that back and forth. Like back in 2015, I was sitting there going, okay, can somebody tell me, do we know that the North Pole is actually the North Pole and the South Pole
I'll
is actually
find,
the South Pole?
I'll get it. I'll get
and
a
the positive and negatives,
today.
I don't believe them.
I'll get a definite today. I'll get a definite today. I will get a definite today because we're going to go do some work. So it's really interesting because you're starting to actually see. So, like, if I then say that, like, if we say that south is heat,
Kind of makes sense.
And north is cold, then you actually have the polar. So in the north you have the south, in the positive, in the negative you have the positive, and there's your balance.
Okay.
And see, for me, when that happens, so you have that going on, not that, or that, you have that going on. It sets. It doesn't repel. So like with what Ehud was saying about these ceremonial dances, if it was going counterclockwise in the north and the sync goes clockwise, but they changed the dance to clockwise, you actually have a repelling influence.
And I get that. There it is. There's the picture. I found it. There's the picture that I was looking for, but can I find a better one? Okay, here we go. I'm trying to see if I can get one that's a little bit bigger so we can see it better. I guess that's about as good as it's going to get. Okay, hold on. And I don't even know what the writing is. I'll have to take a look. Hold on. I got to find Zoom again. Okay. Okay, so remember we keep talking about the fact of the Earth's geomagnetic field doesn't look like nice and neat like this picture up here shows. The Earth's geomagnetic field doesn't look all lovely and sweet and neat and tidy like this. The Earth's geomagnetic field looks a fuck of a lot more like that. So, fuck, I wish we could actually see the actual globe underneath that.
Do you notice, see how they're loops?
Yes, and that's what I was just going to bring up. You get the loops, and it's kind of like what you were saying, that you have a north and a south, but it doesn't mean that the north is up here and the south is down here at the bottom of the planet. It could be a north and a south here, and a north and a south here, and another north and a south here, and another north and a south here.
Exactly. And then you start looking at shit way differently. because all it takes is for a few of those streams to come out in one place because it becomes more energetic, and you could have a volcano that goes off or an earthquake.
Well, and that's
or plasma discharges, or even possibly, like, I've started postulating that because the trees have gotten so sick from just everything, including a lot of this natural phenomena, whether they literally do absorb, like Anastasia said, energy coming back up and through, and they store it, and whether they are possibly also combusting themselves, like getting to a point where they are just turning into fire. Remembering that fire isn't fire. Fire is oxidation. It is rust at its most, because the thing's not burning. It's the
rust at its most energetic.
Right? Because it's not the thing that's burning, it's the oxygen. You take away the oxygen, shit stops burning. And that was another thing that we've been taught, is the way that our electrics is tuned. This is quite trippy, D. Is that the way that electricity works is you have, like, the negative works on hydrogen, the positive works on oxygen, and they have our positive charge tweaked out through AC. So oxygen is being interacted with energetically on a way broader scale than hydrogen, which is what is also throwing everything out of balance. Because when you wind the positive and negative the same way like they used to for three-phase and stuff, it creates a whole different, clean, non-radiation, non-electromagnetic field, because it's in balance.
Which comes back to the whole question about a change in, okay? And again, oh, fuck, the chicken and egg conversation all the way through tonight.
But do you
with
see what I'm getting
hydrogen,
at?
Okay, but again, same thing with the hydrogen and the oxygen. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Just quickly, do you see what I'm getting at, though? They don't have to change the electricity. They just have to wind the wires differently. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. That's it.
Any electricians out here? Like, have they done? I'd love to find out if they've changed how.
Well, here,
like, this are literally wound.
This is how. Well, this is where we're going. But the thing is like, for instance, down here we're at, I think it's 100, and John will fucking be able to tell me the difference, but 100 volts to 12 to 24 volts. And in the States, it's 110. And literally the difference is like two coils on one side of the positive or negative plug. That's the difference in the plug. So the energy in America is 110, I think it's 110 volts, and then it comes to your plug, and then it comes out at 24. But what they've done is they've, on one side, all it is like 2 or 3 extra coils on the copper. And now what they're doing with stuff is, when it's got capacitors, they have the positive charge with like 2 capacitors, and the negative side with 1. And what it does is it's all of these little things burn things out quicker, because what happens is as the charge is passing through, the positive, being at a higher charge, attracts more oxygen. The oxygen then oxidizes the electrics and whatnot in certain ways and burns it out faster. But if they had them in parallel, in sequence, they wind out and wind back in, okay? And that keeps the positive and negative in harmony. It doesn't create a pulse. And all our telecommunication devices have this kind of coding, because otherwise you'd get that fizzing and hissing or ticking that goes on. It's fucking wicked.
Well, okay, so I have a question, because this is funny, because back in Morocco, we were winding coils. And Nick was making, and I can't remember what the hell Nick was making now. It was an energy device. I don't really remember what it was. He was making it, and it got to the point where it had to be X many coils. He had to wind it, and we were winding it. And he'd get to the point, even Nick with his hands were exhausting. And you'd get to a point where you get to and it would just go. And it was as if it would spring out. And I can remember asking him, I said, are we winding it in the wrong direction? Like, no idea why. Like, it wasn't like, I was almost half joking, but it was like, it's so does not want to wind in this direction. So are we supposed to wind it in the other direction? Is that like what it's telling us? Is that we're winding it? And we never did get an answer. Finally, I don't know, 10 attempts, we finally did get the coil wound. But it took everything to get this coil wound. And I gotta wonder now. Like,
well, it's like I say,
it's in the wrong direction. One too many.
Possibly.
Coils.
But see, then it depends on what. This is where it all comes in. It all depends on what you're trying to do, because then what it is you're. I mean, when it comes to electrics, if you're running from the electrical grid, there's a certain amount of coils and windings out, yes, and then back in, right? But that's to deal with that. That's taking it from that interface, that AC/DC interface, to do certain things. See, when we work with the water and electrolysis, then it's got to do with distances and shapes. And then what we're doing is we're directing the current, and then we're offsetting the current to do certain things.
Okay.
And then there's different shapes involved in the different processes.
And there's different, for example, we talked about the AC/DC question back when we had the last deep immersion. And that kind of came in, and or what I think it was, I don't remember. And the fact of the on-off, 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 on-off current versus the direct current, the current that is the continuous direct current. And I come back to the whole thing of the on-off feels, again, like another representation of the north-south, another representation of the hot-cold, etc. Well, and you could literally say on is hot and off is cold.
Exactly. And then you've got it built into your body. Because you've got north and south. North, spin, south, spin.
Wax on, wax
exactly.
off.
Exactly. And this is what I'm getting at is this. So when they take away your lefts and only give you rights, what does that mean?
You go in a circle.
And so then you're only focusing on a clockwise spin, and you're not focusing on the counter-clockwise, not anti-counter.
Counterclockwise. Wildershins for those of the pagan orientation.
And that's where it starts getting real fucking trippy, because like that's what I mean. It's built in. Like what Clara was saying is like, you know, and what we've talked about is the knowing. It's just fucking, it's there. We're just not.
We don't have the
Tai Chi, Taoism, all these different things.
Feng Shui.
The five rights, yoga, all these things, like none of them are necessarily evil. It's the same with like what Michael Tsarian says with the symbology. It's not all necessarily evil. It's how it's used.
Absolutely.
It's like a plus symbol. When you see it, you know you're dealing with addition. Or are you?
I'm not even going to answer that. Are you kidding, dude? That's a question that sounds an awful lot like math.
Yeah. But see, it's the same with what we were talking about with numbers. It's like if the numbers that they put out there, you know, like what was it, 9/11? If we were to work out how the angles are on, you know, what shape would that make? And then you might have a geometrical representation. It's just the same as what's happening with the carbons at the moment. You know, there's all these different carbons, and they're finding all these different ways of making these carbons, and then the carbons do these things.
And
they're these, and they're
I want to talk about that a little bit.
And they're these
talk about
specific geometrical shapes. And it's like,
Hey Ben, I was going to say real quick, it's like it just hits me how a lot of us are so similar, but the way you're thinking, it's like your brain must never shut the fuck up, right? It's like almost constantly the way I can tell that about you. You have so much information in there. It's like yeah, I sort of feel that way too at times. It's like I like to think about important things, not just shit that you're just tired of thinking about. It's run its CD track, its course, whatever. It's like it's like say you made me think of that, Ben. It's like your mind just seems to just go and go and go. Even when you're tired, it tries to kind of kick into gear a little bit. Even when you're really tired, it's like I'm like, shut the fuck up already. Yeah.
That's when my brain does kick in, is when I'm lying in bed and you're like, I just want to go to sleep, but no, I'm going to think about fucking the causality of Earth's rotational spin and its effect on
or growing a fucking second energy body while driving.
Do you want to talk about that? Because I'm honestly saying that I'm thinking you need to stop driving, Ben. I'm really thinking that perhaps Eloise needs to start driving you around, and you should not get behind the wheel of a car at all.
She does at pretty much most times. Well, it's been really weird because it's only most of those occurrences have happened in the evenings now. I'll tell it because I reckon Maury will like this.
I want to ask, evening as in dark?
Dusk going on.
Okay, because I have a theory on it. I'm wondering if it's a light change thing, and you saying that it's at dusk, so basically you're going from a light change.
Oh yeah.
If the change in light is putting you into a trance state.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? No, but you know what I mean? Like the sun's going down, you're flickering. The sun starts flickering through trees as it's going down.
It's not the flickering. It's not the flickering. It's the shadows.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. But when the sun's above you in the middle of the day, you don't get the same shadows. You don't get the same light.
Stuff, stuff opens. So it's like Agnihotra. Remember, breath in, breath out, sunrise, sunset. So when the suns go down over the mountains, I think, especially because what you guys are talking about with Clara, you know what this place is like energetically.
Yeah.
There's stuff starting to happen.
Okay, so you're gonna have to tell everyone what happened, because
I'll tell a story because it was quite interesting. So I was just, and I'll sit here as I was. So I was driving along, and I had this hand on my steering wheel, and I had this hand on the gear stick. And remembering we're in the southern hemisphere, so we drive on the right-hand side of the road. So I'm on the right-hand side of the car. I have my right leg on the accelerator, and I have my left leg just sort of like resting on the side of my foot underneath the clutch. And I'm driving along, and then I get this sensation that my leg lifts up and moves out and positions itself upright, not just relaxed. And I was like, well, this is a bit weird. And I looked down, and my leg was still resting, but I could feel this other leg. And in my mind, I could actually fucking see it. And I was like, oh, this is funny. Didn't really think anything of it because I was like, oh, my leg's just going to sleep, right? And then next thing, as I sort of notice it, another arm comes out and moves over and goes like this. And then as I look over and in my mind see this other arm coming out, this whole other head literally just goes out of my head while I'm driving, and I'm sitting there going, what the fuck? And had to look like and freak out before everything just went back in. And I was just whacking myself on the leg and moving it around, making sure it wasn't like I'd just let my, but I was just like, what the fuck was that? Who the fuck was that? But it was literally like one of those. It was like in Doctor Strange, you know, where they do the woo and they sort of.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of like that, but it wasn't multiple movements. It was just literally like the leg moved, and then as I looked down, I was like, oh yeah, and then this arm, and then, and just as the head started coming out, I was like, but it felt like it was about to go somewhere, and I was like, whoa.
Okay, accidental astral travel.
Like you got
called out, and therefore, like you're.
Actually, when you say that, you know those meditations, I think it was in Doctor Strange, where the bits where they were fighting,
Yes.
and he was, it was like that. That's what it was like. Well, that starting to happen, and I was just like, what the fuck?
Hence the reason why Ben should not be allowed to drive anymore. This is 2 in 2 months.
I'm starting to not just think that it's the light and stuff, because when I'm like out doing work, I can go into a trance by doing eye flickering and see things. Okay, but this. I think it's literally the driving. It's just the monotony.
Okay, vibration.
Yeah, something
vibration?
along. Yeah,
something to do with like a vibration that you just kind of hit.
Because when I'm driving, I just literally am like fucking autopilot, and like what Star was saying, it's like I just am just like conversating. It's like, and it's really funny because I started like listening to the Clara yesterday morning as soon as you posted it. Then I got to work.
Cara,
yeah,
not Clara.
Yeah, Cara, and listen to it throughout the day. And because I'm at work, it's like it's literally like these two worlds are fucking morphing. It's weird. It's very, very weird. But yeah, that was my experience yesterday.
Well, I've been getting that too with like where I'll have my blinds closed, but yet I'll see like light coming through and shining on my closet door. Like it'll be looking like if they were open. Plus, I've seen it go on to my ceiling where there'll be like a window on my freaking ceiling, like a shadow over a window, and seeing like someone walking by the window on my freaking ceiling.
I used to see that when I was a kid.
Yeah, Logan's been seeing. We've been seeing a lot of those shadows.
Motherfuckers walking on my roof.
A lot in this house. A lot of those shadows.
Another funny thing, D. I don't think it'll happen this next moon, but if it does, I've got to get the camera out. I was sitting out here yesterday morning, and just over, you know where the sun rises behind me every morning. I turned around and the moon was there. So the moon was sitting, and it was a crest. So whatever was going on, the sun and the moon are on the same fucking side.
Yeah.
And the sun's coming up underneath the moon.
We caught a picture.
And
we caught a picture, and I'll have to ask Moosh if she still has a copy of it. We were taking the dogs for the walk in the field. It was last spring sometime, and we looked up, and the moon was in the sky beside the sun. And it was early enough morning. Like it was like 8. It wasn't. The sun wasn't high, but it wasn't like dawn either. And we looked up, and both of us looked up and was like, what the fuck is the moon doing over there? Like, what the fuck was it doing? And it was like the sun was here, and it was just the fact that there was just enough of a cloud to, I guess, maybe dim the sunshine slightly to be able to see it. But it was like sun, and here was the moon. Like literally right in front of it. Like the sun's pulling the moon out.
The opposite. The opposite. The moon was going.
Well, the moon was towing the sun up.
Yeah. But it was quite interesting because even though that was happening, the bottom of the crescent of the moon was still the only thing that was lit.
Huh.
So it's
what?
Yeah.
Even that doesn't make sense.
Well, that's what I was.
Even the physics of that doesn't even make sense.
So that was the crescent of the moon, and it's going up like that. But the sun rises from here. So the moon was sitting above the mountain, and I never got to see the sun come up because the coast is over there. But the light's coming up, and the moon's just going. And then the moon just sits there, and then the sun comes up. So at that point, it's the dark side of the moon, right? we're looking at the dark side of the moon. Like, is that not literally the dark side of the moon? You know, it's not. It's not so much.
I know nothing anymore when it comes to the fucking moon and the sun shit. Now I've gotten to the point now where I just say, I know nothing, because nothing makes sense anymore. Nothing makes sense.
Here's some mind fuck for you. How do we know that just randomly? I don't know how they would do it, but I'm just throwing this out there. How do we know that we don't get to see the dark side of the moon lit up on this side, so to speak, at points? I mean, I just thought of that. I just thought I'd throw it out. It's like the dark side of the moon. Are we supposed to never see hard? For all I know,
we're not supposed to be able to see it.
But yeah. And I was thinking the man in the moon, the face in the moon thing. It just hit me too, because even that might not make any sense, because what we're used to seeing. I mean, it's for all I know, it all looks the same up there. Out there, you know, it all looks the same on that. It's just a what do you call it? I mean, yeah, the so-called dark side of the moon might look the same as what we're used to seeing. I know. I'm just throwing that shit out.
I'm not getting at like the side that we don't necessarily see. See, what we've been talking about is charge, heat, positive, negative. So right now, the side of the moon that's facing me, and I'm guessing you guys, see, this is the other side of it. Are you guys in full moon now, or are you in new moon? Because we're in new moon.
I don't fucking pay attention anymore.
But if the other side of the moon is getting charged more than this side of the moon, the polarity of the moon on this side would go to negative, while the other side charged positive because of the heat.
But it doesn't. Supposedly, it never rotates, because the moon basically.
No. Yeah, it doesn't. It still faces like that. But right now, technically, it's between us and the sun.
Yes.
And the sun's heating that side, which is why we have a new moon.
Yes.
So this side of the moon is cooler than this side.
Okay.
So because of the heat transference, just because of the heat transference, it can flip the poles.
It should, yes. Okay, exactly. But I'm going to throw this out here. Okay, and this came to me last week after we'd watched The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
And just because we were just talking about the moon, it's come back up. In the final scene of The Fifth Element, that big circular dark thing is hurtling towards Earth, and they stop it, and it just goes dead in the sky. Like, it literally, it's like the whole thing just turns off and becomes like a dead, big, giant sphere. And I sat there and had this thought, of course, as you're going to bed, because, you know, your brain doesn't turn off. The old legends, and I believe even in some of the biblical, it may be the Book of Enoch, I'm not sure, but in a couple of the Hebrew scriptures that were axed out of the Bible, there is a reference, and there's multiple references with the native peoples, of course, at the time before the moon.
Yeah.
The people before the moon. And I sat there and was like, well, how do we know that basically our moon isn't exactly like, kind of like what played out in the whole Fifth Element? Not to the storyline, obviously, but the idea of something coming in, and it came in and it just stopped. Poof. And it's now a stationary, because it doesn't move like any other moon in the solar system.
Yeah.
It does not move like any other moon in the solar system.
And just before we get off and go on tangents, Chris has gone and put in the chat, it gives off its own light. It's not shining the sunlight. And boom. But that doesn't mean it's not absorbing the sunlight, transmuting the sunlight, and giving off its own resonance in that light format, which is why it's cooler than the sun, and it gives off a cooler light, which would, in what I'm learning, mean that if the Earth is warmer, it's positively charged, or more positively charged than the moon being negatively charged. Now, with all this water into play that's been going on, what if currently coming into the phase that we're coming into, and the moon absorbing this light and whatnot is interacting with that water, on top of 5G interacting with that water, on top of UVCs interacting with that water,
Yes.
and on top of our electrical grids interacting with oxygen and hydrogen, and those fluctuations.
Okay, and on top of the programming that's in the water itself. And whatever programming has been dropped into the water.
Yeah. Or whatever happens from the stuff that's being dropped into the water.
Maury just wrote, Isaac Asimov wrote all about that in a chapter in his book, The Math Behind How the Moon Should Not Even Be There. I think he titled either the book or the chapter Just Mooning Around.
Yeah.
It makes no fucking sense.
But
Makes no.
Don't you think the moon throws the net over us? Don't you think?
Well, I spoke
I've
to
looked at it. Yeah.
I spoke to the Origines. I spoke to the Origines about it not long ago, and they do revere the moon because it's the father. It's the like I was just sort of saying. It's the counter. So even whether it's put there or not, it's the same with like the sigils and symbols and stuff like that. It's how they're charged, it's how it's used and how it's utilized. So let's say with the they, yeah, they the way that they dance is counter what is supposed to be. They might be feeding that energy in a reverse fashion via it for it to then come back down in its light. Okay?
As a reflection?
Yeah. Or
Okay.
or a lens or a projector or a satellite or a resonator to increase that charge.
Okay, so Ben, because that's
and yeah, keep going.
okay, because I had, what was it? And you might remember, was it 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when I had that vision that kind of came in the moment I laid down, and the light coming up, spiraling up, and it went through a veil, through something, a filter, and it hit this big black circular object, like big dark sphere, hit it, went into it, and then turned around and bounced back out again.
Tesla.
You're funny. You're funny. But
well, I mean, but in all seriousness, it's like the planets speak to each other through sonar.
Yeah.
Right? And that is an energy form. We now know that they use what do they call those fucking frequency speakers on protests and stuff like that?
Knock you out. Yep.
It's the same kind of stuff. It's just like, that's what I mean. It's like Wi-Fi. It's like 5G. It's run on microwaves, but it's run on real high frequency microwaves. So the difference is a frequency. It's a frequency.
But it all comes down to, all of this shit keeps coming down to the whole thing of frequency.
Mm.
I mean, more and more and more, and everything that we look at, like different things that we experience, it still all comes back to this whole question of frequency. Because frequency, as far as I'm concerned, it kind of is the ultimate descriptive word, if you will, because frequency is sound, frequency is light, frequency is color, frequency is
frequency is the androgynous frequency for energy.
Everything. Sorry, say again, Ben.
Frequency is like the androgynous term for energy. Without it being mistaken for electricity, or specifically electricity. neutral term.
Yeah.
Take the
Neutral
androgynous
term.
stuff.
Yeah.
Because as you say, you say frequency, and like it can be electrical, magnetic, microwave, UV, light, da 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 da. It can be all or any of that.
ELF, fucking yeah.
See, and yet, like I say, is they all start creating either a heating or a cooling, which is a left or a right hand spin, or a right and a left hand spin. So if you do that with your hands and you look down, you've got your spin.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
Like,
you used to always play that
like,
as a kid. That shows you your spin.
Right. So and then you have things like that is the negative side of your hand and that is the positive side. So then when you think about things like meditation and when you sit like that,
loops.
Well, it comes
but I
in.
immediately see loops.
Yeah, but it comes in, it goes through, you complete the cycle, and it comes back up.
Yep.
But if the earth is negatively ionized and that is the positive palm, then what you're doing is you're helping create.
Okay, so Igor just asked a really interesting question. Is the moon a frequency filter? Like
fucking
a firewall.
Well, I would say I would say the moon is like a capacitor.
Yes.
Just as much as the earth is a capacitor.
Yeah. And I get what you're saying on that, but I also get what Igor's saying about a firewall. I mean,
a firewall as in the sense we don't know how to hack it per se yet, or we don't know the exact way to utilize it for sure, but not a firewall is because nothing inhibits us. The only thing that inhibits us is either us saying we can't do it or us not knowing yet. Yeah. So everything has the opportunity to be flipped. Everything does. If they're doing right-hand dances, clockwise dances, then we should be doing counter. Why? Because there has to be balance.
So that, again, the question you asked about summer solstice, winter solstice, spring, autumn equinoxes, and if you have the original peoples dancing in the corresponding opposite to maintain the balance.
Yes, harmony.
The harmony. But what we're seeing right now is we're going back to basically the balance is off kilter. There is no balance. There's no balance right now.
What would be super interesting is if Clara had if there was in any of the bardic stuff whether they had direction. So let's just say up
they marched around the mountain 4 times. What direction did they go in?
We danced around the maypole,
Yeah.
And then I can find out from the origines down here.
Well,
and then because if they do right and down here does counter, or clockwise and down here does counter, it's like it's not literal definite affirmation, but if all the ceremonies correlated, it would be very interesting.
Okay, and Andrew said from her knowledge, Druidism, the knowledge of Druidism, direction is very important, and it is, and that's the whole thing. Even in all the Wiccan rituals and things like that, direction is always very, very important. How things are done. Stirring is very, very important, and okay, that's interesting. Spirals come. Oh, sorry, Maury. Yes.
I do have a question for you. You made a comment just a few minutes ago, or even seconds ago, observing that nothing seems to be in balance down here. Didn't you say something like that?
Yeah.
And I would counter and say, you're right, and you only told half the story. And the reason I say that is, you're right. Externally, everything is going to hell in a handbasket. It seems out of balance all over. Physically, the external world, everybody around us, all things ain't kind of coming together and stuff. But you also notice, and you know some for sure, that are coming into balance internally.
Absolutely. What I'm literally only talking about the physical now. I'm talking about the
I just
physical
wanted to throw
Yep.
I just wanted to throw that out there, not to lose sight of that is going on as well. But
absolutely.
You're right, as far as the physical is concerned.
I'm talking only the physical realm of, and we're talking about things like the earthquakes, the massive amount of electricity strikes. We're talking massive shifts in geomagnetic and therefore massive shifts in the electric. There is something out of balance. And that's pretty much, when we boil down a lot of this conversation, that's kind of what we're talking about now, is that balance.
Or it's been out of balance and it's coming back in.
And that's where I was going with this, is that a natural rebalancing. And that's why I was talking about the volcano and asking the question of, is it a symptom? Is it
take it to what you
balancing?
Take it to where you know, D. We know the Inuits are saying shit is fucking off by X amount.
Yep.
We know that the First Nations around the world is going, hey, something's fucking up. Right? Why do we know that? Because they're all speaking up, regardless of whether it's against pipelines or fucking fracking or what the fucking church fucking
treaties and fucking yeah.
They're all standing up. They're all standing up.
Yeah.
All at the same time. And they're not just going, hey, you're treating
them
us
all
like
on the same page, it would be awesome.
But Steve, then this is that's what my cry has always been to them, is like, fuck the same page. Do we agree on this thing?
No, and that's the problem. And everyone I've spoken to in Canada, it's like, you can't even get fucking the Mohawk to agree with the fucking Micmac.
That's what I'm saying. They're all trying to agree on the wrong fucking things.
Exactly. But there's a massive co-opting. You and I have talked about this. There's a massive co-opting within that as well.
Well, there's the co-opting, but then there's also the defining. See, and tell me how to say her name properly. Is it Clara?
Cara.
Am I saying
Cara? There's no L.
Cara. That's what I thought. As I was saying, Cara. When she was talking about like androgyny and not labeling, I agree with her in most ways, because you shouldn't define yourself, and that's the fucking problem. But the thing is that it also leaves out the part of getting to know you, because what we're doing is the separation is who are you? It's like, you know, like, are you white, black, male, female, race? It's like that's the stuff that doesn't matter, and that's the part that confuses me the most about the First Nations. Is being white, I've obviously had whatever privileges I've had. I've also had a lot of fucking shit that hasn't totally gone my way at all. But the fact of the matter being is like, every fucking story I've looked into is always talked about one people's, one knowledge, one language, one da-da-da, one love, one all that kind of stuff. And that we're still fighting over defining who we are.
Hey, Ben.
And it's like,
Ben, I think the reason why that happens is that you've got different indigenous groups from different basic civilizations. Like some that actually lived through one, and then when the next one came, like different groups made by different beings.
Oh, totally.
Not have the same. They don't have the same outlook. I mean, you still have indigenous groups that still practice cannibalism, you know, or the baby stuff, you know. Not to say it's just white people, you know, or whatever.
No,
They have indigenous peoples that value life.
Yep, you're completely right. But see that then what you're getting into is perceptions. And what I'm talking about is there's one thing that's quite evident, and we're all fighting over pieces of it instead of coming together and fighting for us.
Yeah.
And that's what so it's like with the Mohawks, they've been like, you are the Mohawks. Yep. This is your reserve. This is da-da-da-da-da. And they know what was potentially taken off them. See, here in Australia, 500 plus clans and tribes. 500 over this whole continent. And I don't know if you guys saw the picture of what I posted, a picture of Australia over Europe. And it's so, but they, and their lands or their borders kind of went like this in and amongst, but it literally was like, we don't go on the other side of that river. They don't come on this side of the river. And then if they needed to, there was protocol.
Yeah, you followed protocol. Ceremony.
But then when they had their main highways and byways as well that they walked and they traveled, and that was country, right? Yeah. And that's the problem here is like, this is mine and this is yours, and that was, you know, it's like it's kind of that whole.
Hey, Ben, can you guys hear me?
Yes, Penny.
Okay. But the thing is you're talking about a past that was very pure, okay? The people, the native people mated with native people, blah, blah, blah. It was very pure. We are not pure anymore. We're a mix of everything. Could that be what we're experiencing now?
I think what we're experiencing now is the relearning of trust.
Yeah.
I think that is actually the crux. And because of the stereotypes and stuff, like white and black, people still have, like I sat here with elders the other day and they were sort of like, well, what have we got to do? And I said, well, that depends. Like, are we family? And they sort of looked at me and I was like, well, do you still see me as a white boy sitting on the other side of fucking the table? Or do you see your nephew that's come back around again? And they just went, oh, right, let's do this. And that's the thing is like, it's like, you know, like one of the things I'm going through at the moment is dealing with, is with paradigms where I you know, I'm at a certain age and other people are at a certain age. And what I'm finding is these people that are older in their sort of 60s to 70s, they've spent 30, 40 years fighting for what they do have.
Yep.
And we're coming along at the age that they started that, going, let's fucking go. And they're like, oh shit, because over the past they've had people come in and fuck them.
Yep. Yep.
And once again, it's like you're still dealing with perceptions. Like someone says to Ben, hey, look, here's this thing, go hard. Things might not turn out the way that they thought going hard normal people would do. And that in and of itself can rub things up the wrong way. Being enthusiastic can be taken as egotistical. Having a very fast active brain that gets triggered by words constantly can make people feel left unheard. And I need to learn how to hold my tongue a bit more. And I've known this for a long time, right? But it's all these little bits and pieces that unless we learn each other, like Dee doesn't take it to offense when me and her are talking anymore. Probably when we first fucking met, she was like, what the fucking is this rude motherfucker saying for starters?
No, because you and I are too much alike that way. But yeah, I get it.
But you get, there's my point. We got each other really quickly. We didn't have to learn too much.
No.
The relationship was quite open from the beginning. Whereas other people, I can come across and it's just like they leave a conversation like they've just been in a fucking MMA fight.
They've just been.
And all we were doing was discussing the hot water system.
I just want to say, Ben, you said it, not me.
I know.
This is funny. I'm sorry, this is funny. It's like you were just saying. It's like I can relate to that. It's like I told. Listen, heck, I've been on Facebook, but I know I've mentioned it out and about where I live. Like when I'm in some place, like yeah, I'm not one for keeping my mouth shut. I've kind of always been that way as long as I can remember. It's like especially from somebody. Oh my God, it's like yeah. Like I talked to that lady in Kroger in the store here like a while back. It's like she told me, she's like I have no tolerance for stupid people. That's just basically my tolerance for people, just say people who just say stupid stuff or just come off stupid. Like she told me, she's like, just got no tolerance for it. I've kind of gotten that point myself. That doesn't mean, obviously, you're not rude to somebody who isn't rude to you, but if someone just says something, blurts out something stupid, when you're looking at if you're looking at whatever I was looking at that point, maybe to buy, and this guy just blurts out, something like, oh, that stuff's bad for your liver, or something like that. I'm like, what the? He's like, oh, I'm just fucking with you. I'm like, people, some of that, when you're out, it makes me think of that, the stupidity level that people who just don't even know you or make me think they've seen you around and there's this vibe you have that where they can, I'm sure some of you have experienced that. You seem to give this vibe that brings a lot of stupid remarks to you.
And that's learning people's languages and that's the door opening to whether you want to find out more and have them around or not. And that's kind of where it's at, is like, for me, it's literally juggling 2 or 3 different paradigms or jurisdictions, I think is probably the better word. Yeah. And it's trying to meld those sorts of things. But the other side of it too is understanding how much energy can come out when I'm being enthusiastic. And that can literally leave people feeling like they've left an MMA fight. And that was like, I've brought it up here a few times, is that realization of like, okay, how can I make everyone that I interact with have the best possible experience without influencing them energetically in any way?
Which is impossible. I'm sorry, but
it's impossible. It's impossible to have an energetic exchange, but it's not impossible to inflect people with your energy.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at.
Yep.
See, so like when I'm feeling really, really, really weird, I don't hug nobody. I don't even hug my partner, because I'm just like, I'm just gonna be careful with this one for a little bit.
I'm just gonna hold this energy really, really tight and not share it.
Because, in kind of comprehending energy, it's like if someone is at a lower vibration and they're not quite high, you can
shock
either
them.
make them discharge what they have and or upload them with more than what they need.
Yep.
And if they're not in the space to kind of comprehend that, it turns into anxiety or depression or any of these little fucking things that we're given to link to these emotional discharges.
So I have to tell a little experience. and I think I mentioned, we had the conversation, I think last week before, about, we were talking about bots. What's the terminology, guys? Video game terminology. NPCs.
NPC.
Thank you, Nat. Everyone's going NPC. Come on, Danny, just spit the fucking letters out. And I said about the fact of how you meet someone and you get the feel. You can feel when you really meet someone who's real. And I said, we have a lovely girl who works in the little ice cream shop. And it's really funny because over the last month, we've gotten to be really, really friendly. Like we chit chat all the time. And now because she chit chats with us, the other girls in the ice cream shop are now like super, super, super friendly. They know us. They know our whole gang of everyone who comes in. It's like I've always got at least like 6 with me. It seems like 6 kids, 8 kids, sometimes 10. Right, I need ice cream. I had this conversation with her the other day, and it was really interesting because I said to Nick, you meet people, because she's quite young. She's got to be, I'd say, in her early 20s tops, like maybe 22, 23. You meet people who are awake. And it doesn't mean that they know everything. They know all about Illuminati and the cabal and the shadow government, and that's not what I mean. But you know, when you meet someone, and I've just, in the conversations I've had with this girl, she's one of those people who was born awake. Little comments that she talks about things like she's from Serbia, and she talks about like her country, and she's like, these people, and they get all like rah rah rah, and I'm looking at them. She says, I was like 15 going, what are you all excited about this election for? Seriously, people, why do you not get it? She doesn't know. She doesn't have any of the background knowledge that we have in the years of researching all this fucking political corruption and all the rest of it. She doesn't need to because she's got it. It's like she's just one of these people who's she's just got it naturally. And it's just become, it's like a prior knowing. Exactly, Igor. It's like a prior knowing. It's like she came into this world and she fucking knew that all this shit was just like so not relevant, so not important. And it's really interesting because it's, like I said, for the very first time we met her, which would have been like last summer sometime, you just, there's a smile there. There's an energy exchange. And it's kind of like what Ben says. So whenever she sees me, she calls me over, hey, come on. And we chat. And we always end up talking for at least 10, 15 minutes every time, even if the kids go off home by themselves. There's an energy exchange there because she works on that same frequency. Even if she doesn't know all the ins and outs and the ups and the downs of it all, she still gets it. And there is an energy exchange there that is natural and it flows. And I get what Nick means because you meet people who are somewhat awake sometimes and you start into a conversation and your energy goes like this as you start sharing. And you can see them start to do this. Like, oh, because it's like too much energy. I'm just going to pull in, pull in, pull in, pull in. And it's kind of a difficult thing to balance. I'm kind of like the Ben the same way. I have to be careful because I tend to kind of overwhelm people with the same way. Don't get me started on some of the topics that I get into, as all my homeschooling group knows. They've all learned the hard way. We're pretty much towards the end of our 2 hours, believe it or not. Fuck. I want to let everyone know, if you guys haven't been in the Unfuckers group, yesterday we launched our, I hear children somewhere. Yesterday we launched our C60 line of oils. And we're really, really, really excited. I've been working ridiculously hard at building the website stuff and getting everything all put together. So I am going to be organizing a call to talk specifically about this stuff because I know a lot of people have a lot of questions. And so I want to be able to we'll do a call. Everyone can come on and we can. Gypsy, are you talking to me? Yep, everything's good. Yep. That's all been sorted out. Fucking finally. So yeah, I'm gonna organize a call. I haven't decided what day it is. If you guys have a day that you works better for you, like is the weekend gonna be better for everyone? We can do it like that. We could even do it, I don't know, like for an hour, say before we do the movie. If people are into that, let me know. Like just I'll put a post up into the Unfuckers group and into Unfuckers Unite, and people can let me know how they're feeling on this. But yeah, because I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, and I want to let's put everything on the table. Let's discuss it here, and then we can. Yeah, Fred, you're the star, and then we can get kind of and then we can also record it too, so that as other people have other questions, that we'll have a recorded piece of information that we can put out to help people figure the shit out. Does that sound okay with everyone? Yeah, Crazy Crone, and that's exactly it. A lot of people have a lot of questions. Now, one of the things I'm doing, and I'm going to put this out right now, one of the things I've done is I've made a little private membership side on the Gaea's Garden website. And it's got just a simple forum where we can talk. I've done this very, very specifically because for liabilities, right? I'm not a doctor, so if I start going out on the website and start saying, oh, you should take 5 mils a day internally and you should do this and do that and it's going to end up coming back and biting me in the ass. We can't really do this. So I've created a private membership side. And all the Unfuckers, all you Unfuckers who are in the Unfuckers Unite members, you're already members. So the Unfuckers Unite, and you'll see if you go to register on the site, you'll see that it says there's 2 memberships. There's a paid membership, which is $20 a year for people coming from the outside who want to discuss this. And there's the Unfuckers membership. And all you have to do is go in and register, and I will just bing. Make sure you register under the same name, like your same username as your Unfucker username, so that we don't have confusion. And it's because I wanted to create a neutral place where people could come and talk, because I don't want to bring people who are interested just in C60. I don't want to bring them into the Unfuckers group, right? That's our space. Vice versa, I don't want to leave the Unfuckers out when we want to talk about the C60 and other stuff too, because we're going to get into lots of different conversations. Some of the research I'm pulling up lately has been just fucking astounding, some of the shit that's coming out. So the membership is there on Gaea's Garden. Just go in and register, all the Unfuckers. And like I said, I'll just in the morning when I get up, I'll start. Deb, we can always do a second time. So, I mean, if we don't have to do it before the movie. That was just a thought off the top of my head, if that's convenient for people. We could do it tomorrow night. Matter. We could do it Friday night. Whatever works for you guys. And I'm willing to talk about it as long as you guys have questions. You just ask me and we'll go through all the information. And I've got a shit ton. If you go to the site, there's a C60 page. There's a C60 research page. And I have put in, there's probably got to be at least 40 different research papers that I've already put in with either links to the paper or I've actually embedded the PDFs. So, So yeah, whatever. You guys figure out whatever works for you guys. I'm relatively flexible. I mean, obviously morning is the best time for me, but that fucks everyone over in North America because that's the middle of the night for you guys. Which is why I always end up doing the late nights. I have to pay our extortion. I mean taxes. Yeah, I know.
But were we? I can tell. I admit, it's like, don't you just love it when you drift up mentally for like a second or two, and you can just miss a key bit of info? Like, yeah. What were we gonna? What? I guess what are the questions about? Yeah, I've caught everything else except, I guess, specifically what we were gonna aim for, what we were.
A discussion discuss the C60 products that I've just watched.
That's what it is. Okay, see, I'm glad I clarified that now because I saw the C60 in here in the chat. I'm thinking, hold it. Is that what she was, wanting to talk about? So, yeah, okay. Now I'm glad I mentioned it again. Thank you. Yeah.
No problem. And now, I'm actually almost sold out of the rose velvet cream, and I've got an order coming in from Morocco for my rose water, and everything got delayed by 2 weeks. And I've been like, So, yeah, I've only got a couple of bottles of rose. Even though I've only got about this much in my own bottle. I've got like a little tiny bit left. Okay, Ben, you're heading off?
Yeah.
Ask some questions about that plus minus spin and the equinoxes, especially the equinoxes stuff.
What equinoxes stuff?
Like the spring and autumn equinoxes, i.e. north and south, and I'm really interested to find out what their answer is on that.
Well, yeah. I'll have to. I'm trying to. I'll have to get in contact with our radionics dude on the equinoxes stuff, but on the electrical discharge and magnetics and that.
Yeah.
We'll there's stuff to be put together that needs to be talked about. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. Because when you start looking at the way that like the spin and the flow of like magnetics and stuff works, it starts making certain shapes.
Hey, and that's another whole conversation. We're not going in there.
Hey Ben, without a real long answer, I got a quick question for you on that. With the energy flow, if the equinoxes are like extreme positive and extreme negative, north and south, like you were talking before.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at it, I'm saying, okay, well, the equinoxes must be the neutral point then in each hemisphere. Is that correct or is that wrong?
Or the lulls, I would say. I would go with the lulls.
Yeah.
See, the thing is because the equinoxes are, which one? You got your solstices and you got your equinoxes.
Yes.
Right.
So your equinoxes are kind of the lulls because your equinoxes are your shortest day, longest day.
Right, but energetically though, which is what you were talking about with electricity and stuff. If the equinox, you said in the northern hemisphere it was positive and in the negative hemisphere it was negative, which would be I would think the strongest negative or positive, and it flips at the other side of the year. Well, in the midpoint for both of them would be the equinox, wouldn't it? Or the neutral point.
So, or the lull.
Yeah. That's
and then when you look at ceremonies, most ceremonies had to do with equinoxes and celebrations had to do with solstices. So if you were to look at it ceremonially, well, two ways. First, look at, you've got both those times being either a lull and a lull or a high. So longest day, shortest day, potentially hottest day, coldest day.
Mm.
So you've got heat. And then on solstice, of course, then you've got when the sun, I guess, is at full peak and at lowest peak.
Yep.
Right? So then you've got heat again. See, what I start wondering is whether when poles are talked about, whether what they mean is
Ben,
charges.
you got them backwards. You're reversing solstices and equinoxes.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, summer and winter solstice, spring and autumn equinox.
No. That's what I meant. If that's not what I said, then I apologize.
You just reverse them. It's okay. We got it.
So then, when you start, like I say, if we're talking about frequency, energy, and heat and cool. Are attributed to a positive, negative charge. Are the poles the charges? They're not points. So at one point, the Earth is more negatively charged and the ionosphere is more positively charged. And then that flips. And that's the pole flip. And then the reason I say that now is after watching that Robert Schoch stuff, there is, like, for lightning to happen, it is a pole shift. See, and then you put it into Cara, and you talk, like, you see what I mean? Like, she talked about tattoos and was sort of like, are tattoos or are tattoos these other things? And then are ley lines tattoos on the planet? Is that what, like that side of it? So as a pole shift, it's not a fucking northern hemisphere, like fucking da-da-da-da.
Okay,
it's a
Ben,
charge.
stop flashing your arms around. Dude, you're going to give me a fucking seizure if you don't keep that up.
It's a charge. It's just a charge shift. And the reason, like I say, that you're seeing things like the volcanoes, their magma giving off a different charge is because a different charge is being presented currently. If that charge transpires to be the greater charge, that will be the new charge. At the moment, like I say, you're seeing volcanoes and you're seeing expansion, like Earth expanding, like breaking apart.
Yeah.
So it starts correlating. So, sorry, short answer, Maury, is I believe that in looking at energy and heat being a charge transfer, then yeah, that's where the importance of equinoxes and solstices come in.
Now that Ben has completely lost everyone, I'm too tired to actually think about that statement. My brain just went smush and went, yeah, no, I've gone beyond my time schedule to be able to actually have this conversation anymore.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, bye, sweetie pie. I'll talk to you later. Yeah, no, Stephanie, I get to the point, like, we're at 5 minutes after midnight, and my brain turned off at pretty much midnight on the spot, and was like, yeah, no, I can't actually, I can't pull this conversation together anymore. Yes, all the insanity. So, you guys, we can arrange to do just the C60, we can just talk about it tomorrow night, or tomorrow daytime for everyone in North America. Or Friday, today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday, so Friday. So it is up to you. What do we have to do to hit Ben in the afternoon? He is 8 hours ahead of me right now, so him in the afternoon is like 6 o'clock in the morning for me, which would be midnight Eastern. Yeah, so yeah, eight, yeah, so it's 8 hours ahead. From where he is, he's 8 hours ahead of me, which makes him 14 hours. 14 hours ahead of Eastern. Yes, 14 hours ahead of Eastern. Oh, Johnny, most of you guys can't handle his midday persona. He's a little bit calmer in the morning. He's a little easier to understand. So yeah, well, no, but it depends on from what point to what point, Fred, right? Like, so, for example, from me to Hawaii is 12 hours.
It can't be more than 12 hours. It's plus 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 12, or minus 1, 2, 3 up to 12. Somebody
yeah, that's
help.
how they officially put it, but it still works out to the same fucking math, right? You could say we could say he's X many hours behind plus 1 day, which is what they
at some point
things with plus 1.
Yeah. It's like plus up to 12, minus up to 12, and that's how they cut it. Maurice, do something. Somebody who got this stuff, please. Maurice just giving us this very, I'm the wise old person here, and I know stuff, but I ain't gonna.
Maurice looking like the Buddha. He's just sitting there like Buddha.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let you puddle in the bullshit you're spewing out, and I'm just gonna laugh here. Come on.
Yeah.
But there's like that. You can't be plus 15 somebody or minus 13. It's plus up to 12. I don't know.
I don't know. So, like, the whole thing is, like I said, Hawaii is 12 hours behind me, but they're 13 hours behind you. So if you only do the plus 12 minus, then what is it? Do they do minus 11 plus 1 day or minus 1 day? I don't know.
Somebody's got to, come on, somebody's got to know this, right?
Let me ask you this, Danny. It's like the way they fuck with daylight savings time here in the States, well, some of us anyways, Indiana being one of the idiots here doing it. But, it's like technically 6 p.m. here. So, Danny, where you're at, it's about what?
You're Eastern.
In the morning?
No, you're Eastern, right? Yeah, I'm
like
6 hours ahead of Eastern.
Okay.
That's why.
I was thinking of your time zone.
Yeah, I'm CET. I'm Central European time. So it is, the shows are always, if you look at when I write them down, it's 10 p.m. CET, 4 p.m. EST, 1 p.m. Pacific, 6 o'clock the next morning, Sydney.
Okay.
Chris, you could use the crayons to block your ears, but you ate them all. So.
Just don't use wax, dude. Don't use wax.
Yeah, Gail will tell you all about putting wax in your ears. Gail's like, shit, do I talk? I am a cow. And I'm too far away for you to hit me, so there. Tee-hee-hee. Also, guys, I'm still trying to organize the exact dates of the next Unfucker gathering. I am looking very seriously at the first week of October, though. So, all of you guys, especially you guys in Europe, you know, it's not that far away, and October is pretty inexpensive for traveling. Gail's coming for sure. Anne should be here. Brianna's going to get her ass fucking here, right, Brianna?
Yeah.
Right.
Somehow. Yep.
Igor, you got to be here too this time, because you were supposed to be here for the last one, and you and Brianna, neither one of you could make it.
I will be, Donnie. I want to.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, the recording of this will be up on the RTS Earth site tomorrow lunchtime my time. It usually only takes me a couple hours, depending on how insane my fucking morning goes. Start saving some pennies, Chris, because we can find you cheap flights. I am the queen of finding cheap flights. What's your biggest city you're close to? That also makes a difference. London. Oh, so London's super easy because flights out of Luton, you can usually pick up really bang on cheap flights out of Luton or Stansted. So yeah, Joni, you're a little farther away. Yeah, Gail got a good ticket last time she came. It cost her 54 pounds sterling return. So yeah, so we're aiming for the first week of October. Let me just pull up the old calendar. August, September, October. I was looking at either the first week or either doing from the Friday the 5th of October to the 12th of October. That was probably the week I was looking at. Friday the 5th to October 12th. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Get everyone to start making some plans. Janie's already here, so she doesn't have to go anywhere. So that's about it, darlings. I'm gonna now fuck it, I'll have one more cigarette. Oh, I'm stiff and sore.
We're like doing the after during the show now.
Sorry, baby?
I said you're doing the after show during the show now, and then you run off to bed.
Oh, right. Okay. So maybe we should stop the live stream. Okay, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for coming. We'll finish the live stream. Then I'll have my smoke. We'll finish our chat. And then I'll go to at some point in time. So Sunday night, Unfuckers movie night, we are watching Inception. So the usual time, and I don't know if anyone heard that with Groot flopping his ears around. 10 p.m. Central Europe, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, 6 a.m. Sydney. So there's our times. I will see everyone on Sunday night. I will post out when we're going to do the C60 conversation tomorrow. We'll figure it out. And that's it. Bye, everyone. In the live stream world.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.